All right, y'all, I have a confession to make. It is Halloween time, and I do not like scary stuff at all. I do not like scary movies. I like Halloween. Halloween's a fun holiday for me, but I'm a scary individual. Y'all know, Matt, you know that had this conversation, Steph. I don't know if you know what this is up in New York, but I had this conversation with at a volleyball game. As we describe people as scary people. Not that they're scary, like you scare me, Matt, but a scary person gets scared easily. Is that a New Orleans
Oh,
thing?
yeah, I've never heard that. So we would describe you as a scary
A scare,
person,
yeah, I'm scary. Yeah, like I get
like a
scared easy.
scaredy cat. We would say scaredy cat,
Okay.
Yeah, we say scaredy cat.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. New
scare
Orleans,
easily.
we had this whole like this 20-minute conversation about that at a volleyball game with another dad who's from New Orleans, and then with
Yeah.
someone else who's not from around here. And we're like, yeah, yeah, I'm scary. And then they couldn't quite understand it. So I'm scary. I do not like scary stuff. I hate commercials during Halloween time because there's always commercials for scary movies.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
I want to be into scary movies, but I'm not. I'm scared of scary movies.
So if I were to ask you, what's your favorite scary movie? You don't have one?
I mean, I do not have a favorite. I have like memorable ones that I've seen that scared me. I remember as a kid watching Children of the Corn.
Oh, it's the worst of the worst. Oh my
It's the
gosh.
worst. Any sort of religiously scary movie is super scary. And then, do you remember Blair Witch Project?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the idea of running around with the camera and you can't quite see just outside the camera view, and so there's a lot of jump scares. That stuff always gets me. Always gets me. Don't want to go to a haunted house, none of it.
Yeah. So like Blair Witch Project, that's like there's like this what makes I guess scary movies good scary is like there's this uncertainty. You have no idea what's going to happen next. That uncertainty is just it's terrible. Steph, what about you? You have a favorite scary movie?
I used to love scary movies when I was growing up, but the older I get, I just don't have I can't do it anymore. But my favorite scary movie was Scream, and that's just because I'm a 90s girl,
Yeah.
and that was the quintessential scary movie of the 90s.
I don't know if I've
Yeah,
ever seen Scream.
I watched Scream recently within the last year with my kids, and it was enjoyable. It wasn't terrible.
Enjoyable. Don't people get killed?
Yeah.
It was enjoyable in that like sharing a movie from my teenage years with my kids was enjoyable.
Yeah. I think this is why I don't like scary movies. Matt, and I might need some therapy here. So I
Okay.
vividly remember this. Okay. I was 10 years old. My brother and my cousin sat me down and made me watch Hellraiser. And if I closed my eyes, they would just start beating me up, start punching me, wailing on me. And I was
Oh, wow.
forced, yes, I was forced to watch this. And then my brother had all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and I just remember them playing in the background. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Waterbeds terrify me. You know what the most scary thing for me though is? If my wife's listening, she's gonna lose it just laughing at me. Porcelain dolls. So like anything that looks like a
Yeah.
young little kid that looks like it's like murderous that could,
Yeah.
blood stained with a knife. I remember to this day when we moved, I was in seventh grade and we're looking at houses. And there was one house we looked in right down the street from the house that I most, I went to high school in, where my
Okay.
parents still live. Like 3 or 4 houses down, there was this house we were looking at, and when you walk in, immediately on the right, there was like this like little a room, like a little parlor, and it was full of porcelain dolls. I don't know what these people's obsession
Mm.
was, but it was porcelain dolls, and it was terrifying to walk by. And anytime I walk by that house, like I'm always looking over my shoulder, like I'm going to be attacked by something, like a porcelain doll or something. So
To this day, you
to
remember
this
to this?
day, man, it's scary. It's
Mhm.
scary. Well, why are we
This
talking about scary stuff, y'all? Well, I didn't even tell you who we have on our podcast today. Y'all know Matt, Dr. Matt Morris. That's a familiar voice. He's a longtime friend of the podcast. And we have a first timer on the show today, Stephanie Osborn. Stephanie, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
I am Stephanie Osborn, and I work with Erik.
Yeah, and we thought it'd be nice to have a woman's voice a woman's insight
Yes.
on our show. Uh, this morning, y'all, I am Eric, co-host of the Stuff About Money podcast. So today we're going to talk about not scary movies. We're not going to talk about Halloween, but we're going to talk about another topic that a lot of people do find scary, a topic that does raise a lot of anxiety, and it is quite fearful for some people, and that's why we are leaning on Dr. Matt this morning. We have him on today. We're going to talk about the idea that money is scary and anxiety inducing for people. Matt,
Hmm. Yes.
that would you agree?
Yeah, I guess you're talking about my work with couples and couples therapy. Do I hear
Yeah.
couples talk about that money is scary? Certainly. Not all of them, and not necessarily both members of the couple, but frequently people talk about how maybe they're not fluent in money. They're not in a way they're not literate in money, and so it's scary because it's unknown, it's technical, it's difficult, it's detailed, and people sort of get overwhelmed by it and hide from it.
Yeah, it's the unknown, right? Just like in the Blair Witch Project, it's unknown. You don't know if you're about to to die.
That's
The
right.
uncertainty. Stephanie has some stats that she has pulled up here. Matt, I would love to get your thoughts on these. Let's kind of run through them, and just curious to see what you see in the real world. And Steph and I will discuss what we see when we meet with and talk to our clients. But lead us off, Stephanie.
Sure. 80% of Americans feel anxiety about finances. I actually feel like that should be way higher. I feel like everybody has anxiety about finances.
Do you run into that? Like, when you say everybody, like, what's your experience? Like, you're talking about, like, people with money, people without money?
Yeah, I feel like people with money are always concerned about money, and people without money are always concerned about money. They always want to have more, or they fear that they don't have enough.
So who are the 20% who are not worried about money?
Mhm. I think they're out
Kids?
there. I think they are out there. I think that people that know where their money's going, know what they're doing financially, have a sort of peace about their finances.
No, okay, let's unpack this a little bit, like, anxiety.
Yeah.
Anxiety's a loaded word, right? Because I don't have "anxiety," quote, unquote, but there's times where I'm definitely anxious about money or worried about money or spending probably more mental capacity thinking about, man, I have a tuition payment to make. So, like, what, Matt, how would you I know this, you don't know the study and you don't know how they're defining anxiety, but when you think of
Right.
anxiety, how do you think about that? How do you frame
Yeah.
it?
I mean, technically, anxiety is typically defined as a future-oriented fear. It's something that we're worrying about that hasn't happened yet. We're anticipating something negative happening. And so people that have their finances in order, and are confident about their ability to handle finances, I don't think would indicate that they're anxious about their finances. You gave me a survey to take recently, and one of the domains on the survey was about confidence in
Mm.
handling finances. And I would think that people that scored high on that confidence indicator would would not endorse that they're anxious.
Oh, interesting. So an antidote to anxiety would be knowledge.
Yeah, right.
Understanding.
And of course some people are falsely confident, but
Mhm.
many people are, there are people out there that are confident with their financial acumen and skills. They know what they're doing. Their stuff's in order.
Do you find that there's um a certain profile of people who are more anxious than others, just in your work?
Oh, sure. Sure. I mean, we could get into the weeds about this, but just quickly, one of the big five personality traits is neuroticism. And neuroticism is a kind of anxiety. it's the older word for anxiety, being just being a little bit more uptight about things in general, being a little bit more tightly wound about things in general.
Hmm.
And then when you're trying to be very conscientious about your money and you're a little tightly wound, that profile is going to be more anxious.
Interesting. Yeah, makes me think. I had a friend once. I mean, once he's no longer in the city. An acquaintance. My wife would say he's not really a friend. He really didn't. I mean, we know each other. And he made a lot of money, and he never let on to have a worry in the world. And he spent money like it was going out of style. And his mentality was, I'm probably gonna die young, so it doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
I was anxious for him. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, what if you don't die young? You're just delaying the anxiety."
Right. Yeah. That seems to me like somebody that is not anxious enough.
Yeah. All right, Steph, what else you got for us?
There's another stat that says that 47% say money negatively impacts their mental health.
So this is interesting. Just because someone feels anxiety about money doesn't necessarily mean it impacts negatively their mental health. And maybe that's like the nuance that um, I was, just trying to understand that the word anxiety is not necessarily just because you're anxious means it's a mental health issue. Matt, how do you feel about that? About that stat, 47% of people. I mean, that's a big number. It's like 50% of the people, half the people said it impacted negatively.
Yeah. I don't, given the first one is the first stat was like 80% of Americans feel anxiety about finances. And then only 47 or 50% of people say money negatively impacts their mental health. I don't know exactly how to square those two things, but it must, there must be a way that people are feeling anxious about their money that is not impacting their mental health. And then another larger group are feeling anxious about their money. And it is weighing them down. I mean, it is causing them to feel more bleak about their future. It is causing them to feel more helpless about
Hmm.
changing the outcome, about being able to affect change in their own life. There must be folks in that number that are even more weighed down by financial pressure. And it
Yeah,
is it is surfacing more like depression, I would think.
yeah, Stephanie, I would say that there's probably moments where I feel anxious about money, but I never feel like it's like a drain on my mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that. There are definitely times where I feel different stresses about money in different area and different times, but it's never really weighed on me
Yeah.
mentally.
Well, that leads to the next stat, which is interesting. I thought that this would be a higher number, quite honestly. Only 54% of people feel stressed about money at least 3 days a week. Like,
Mm.
we talk to people. Maybe it's just the people who I engage with. Money's on their mind, so there's some level of stress associated with it. The stress about debt, the stress about saving for retirement, the stress about sending New Orleans. People don't think about college. I mean, we do think about college planning down here, but so many people are thinking about sending their kids to private school and daycare. I was having a conversation with a new parent here in New Orleans, and they're like, I didn't realize that daycare was like the cost of college, right?
Yeah.
So um, it just seems like more people would be more stressed about money than just 3 days a week. That surprised me.
Yeah, to add on to your story, I heard a person recently telling me how much they're spending on daycare right now, and they just reported it as a monthly figure. And then I crunched the numbers over 4 years, so like birth to kindergarten essentially, how much they were going to spend. I have a freshman in college right now, and so I took that kid's total tuition bill that we've added up, and I broke it down for 4 years and 12, over 48 months. And it was a little less than what that parent is paying in daycare. So this parent is paying
Wild.
slightly more in daycare than our family's going to spend to buy an undergraduate degree for my kid. That makes me nervous.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. I so am I anxious about that? I'm aware of it,
Hmm.
and it weighs on me at moments, I guess. Like, are we doing okay with that? But I I'm not, it's not really impacting my mental health. Am I stressed about it? Maybe at times. I'm a little bit stressed for families that are, I'm more stressed for families that are trying to afford daycare.
Yeah. Um, I actually want to put a pin in something you said to come back to it a little bit later. Is this idea of, are we doing okay? Kind of stopping and having that conversation. Are we doing okay? I want to come back to that. So
Yeah.
if I go off the rails, bring me back to that
Okay.
that statement. And this last stat here, Steph, read that one, because this is actually a concerning one for me.
It's reported that 63% of young adults ages 18 to 34 report significant financial anxiety.
Mm.
Like young adults, 18 to 34, significant financial anxiety. I mean, this is the next generation of people coming up, and already
Yeah.
they're experiencing significant financial anxiety. I don't know, for some reason that one, the addition of significant financial anxiety. Like, are you anxious about money? Yeah. Are you significantly anxious about money? No. But 64% of young people. Um,
Right.
I feel like young people have a lot more of that keeping up with the Joneses mentality these days than I ever had at 18. Um, like they think they're gonna come out and just have all of this money and they need to be a certain way because influencers have kind of shown them
mm.
that they should be a certain way by a certain age.
Yeah, I feel like young people, when I talk with a younger client, I feel like a lot of people are trying to accumulate in a very short period of time what it took their parents 30 years, 40 years to accumulate. So there's this added amount of pressure, and then maybe this added sense of uncertainty. I guess when you're younger, this that survey was from 2024. It's a lot of uncertainty, right, in the world right now. So maybe there's a level of just
Mm.
uncertainty associated with it, where you know we're all kind of hitting our strides in our career. So maybe there's a little bit less uncertainty for us because we kind of know where we are. We've had success in what we're doing. But for someone young who's still trying to make their mark, I don't know. I wonder if that's got something to do with it.
I also think that this group is obviously on social media a lot, and they're seeing a lot of negative forecasting about finances and the financial health of the US right now. They're being told regularly, you'll never be able to afford a house,
Mm,
So even though they might be making strong incomes, housing has really increased. That is a significant increase. Other things are not as expensive, but houses are expensive. And so for people who want to feel like they're making it in life, if they're living the American dream, they're buying a house. The starter houses significantly more expensive than the previous generation or two
I don't even.
generation.
And Steph, I don't know what it's like up where you are in upstate New York, but like I talk to so many young people, and they're already like planning to buy their forever home, their dream home. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, like you got to pay for you got to pay for daycare, much less your
Yeah.
dream home. Um, where you are in upstate New York, you kind of see that. Is the climate different up there?
I feel like some of the younger adults that are looking for houses are kind of bypassing that starter home. They don't really want to do the work. They want to move into something that's turnkey and ready to go,
Yeah.
which does come with a bigger price tag.
I do regret one of my biggest financial mistakes, I would say, or regrets, was building a house too young. We bought a starter house. I wish I would have stayed in it just a little bit longer.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that another thing in the younger crowd, not even the younger crowd, man, I have clients our age that I was gonna say your age. You got a few years on me. Um, I have clients your age that are still dealing with student loan debt.
Yeah.
And the uncertainty I mean, there's been a ton of uncertainty over the past, 6 or 7 years with student loan debt. Is it gonna be forgiven? Is it not gonna be forgiven? Is it paused? I say 7 years, maybe 5 years. When's it gonna start up again? And it's starting to start up a lot for some people. So the uncertainty of, can I afford this payment? Had a conversation with a young early 30s, and they're looking to buy their first house. And the comment to me was, "Yeah, I really didn't know what I was doing when I went to college, and I have a ton of student loan debt." So I think when we look at uncertainty and fear, whether it's for that young group or just people in general, I kind of I kind of have it like looked into categorized into three different types of fears. One is like the fear of am I going to have enough? And that kind of ties into what you're saying about housing. Like, do I have enough to buy a house? Do I have enough to pay for my kids to go to daycare?
Enough to
Do
pay for college. That increased about tenfold in my lifetime.
Mhm. Um, we've already
Yeah.
established that you've been alive for a long time, so
Long time, right? So, yeah.
but like, do I have enough? Right? Do I have enough for retirement? I see that a lot, man, with 50, 60-year-old people thinking about retirement, and it's like this fear of, like, I don't have enough. Do I have enough? People who are retired, do I have enough to last me
Mhm.
my lifetime? The second fear is real fear of debt. Like, man, I talk to people who have 800, $1,000 debt service payments. I'm not talking about your mortgage. I'm talking about like student loan and retail debt. The stuff
Mm.
that is just like, just crushes you. I remember having this conversation with my daughter right before she went to college about, projecting what her loan would look like when she graduates. This idea, it's like, Dad, that's debt. I'm like, no, no, that's not debt. There's a difference between this amount of debt and 3 times that amount of debt. And we looked at the monthly payment. And with people who are stuck with those big monthly payments, it's scary. It's definitely scary. It's
For sure.
scarier
Yeah.
than little porcelain dolls that have eyes that never blink and constantly are looking at you. Um, and then
The scariest Children of the Corn. Yeah,
oh,
the
it's
debt.
terrible. Was it Malachi? Was that his name in Children of the
Yeah.
Corn? Oh,
Yeah, don't bring it up, man.
and then the third fear, the third category is just the fear of the unknown, uncertainty. And that's probably for me, if I'm ever anxious about money, it's that, man, what happens if? It's the
Mhm.
if. What happens if? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if something is going to jump around the corner. I don't know if there's going to be a big expense, a big event that I can't possibly plan for. Will I have enough? Will I be able to to make it through it? Um, but yeah, that uncertainty, I would say, is
Yeah.
for
So
me.
bi 3 big fears there, not having enough, debt, and the unknown.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
That is spooky.
Is that spooky?
Mhm.
Man, we need some candy. We should have had some candy for this. So speaking of candy, that's scarier too. Have you seen the price on Halloween candy these days? My goodness.
Yeah. I thought it was a joke, like I was buying the whole display, and it was just 1 bag.
Just one bag. I'm like, wow, this entire box for $10? No, it's like 50 pieces. Like, what? Like 50 pieces for it's ridiculous. All right. So there's this fear surrounded around money, and we kind of laid out the landscape. Like, but what do we do with it? Or let's before we decide what to do with it, like, let's talk about like the problem of fear when it comes to money. And what I tend to see, and Matt, I'd love to hear your feedback on it, is when people make big decisions that are founded in a fear. And this isn't to minimize people's fear. It's just when a decision is made um, that is a fear driven, because fear is a very intense emotion,
Mm.
doesn't always work out. And sometimes it could make the situation even worse.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of example you're thinking of, but yeah, when people are afraid that they don't have enough and then they reduce their spending and they save a little bit more, that's not as that's not as damaging or catastrophic as is thinking that they're going to die early, so they're afraid that they're just going to die early, so they want to spend all their money now. That's obviously more risky. Um, so yeah, I think that generally speaking, none of us want to be fear driven. We don't want to make decisions just based out of fear, because our fears are frequently misaligned with reality. But we should listen to our fear. We should pay attention to it. We should acknowledge it because it might be pointing us in the direction of a better plan or a better a change that needs to be made.
Yeah, so you're talking about like just a general awareness. Like, why am I feeling this way? Let me become aware of what's causing me to be stressed about money. What's causing me to be stressed about
Yeah.
debt. Why am I so afraid of uncertainty? And we're talking about decisions. The reality is like people who have anxiety about money, sometimes they don't make a decision. And that's the other side of the coin is you make a bad decision or you don't make a decision, you avoid something that is problematic. You avoid the I mean, I've heard people say, "Well, I'm just not going to pay my student loan debt." Okay,
Right.
let's see how that works out for you. Like, avoid, almost like ostrich in the sand, head in the sand.
Yeah.
Um,
The you've heard me talk about this 100 times, but couples need a sense of security in their relationship. And that's a, a big blanket term to mean several different things, but as it relates to finances, couples need to feel some financial security, meaning that um, we know how much we make, we know how much we spend, we have a plan for managing our money together. I trust you. I trust that you know what you're doing. You trust me that we're spending in alignment with the plan. That all of that works to create security. Um, and so some people in relationships, in marriages, are they may not say I'm afraid, but they would say, or I'm fearful. They may not say that, but they would say I don't feel very secure about our financial future.
mm, it's good. It's good. Um, I'll give you an example, not related to a couple, but it's like a decision. This was years ago, and I won't go into the specific details because I don't want to get political.
Oh,
Um, but I was talking to a couple once, and they were very concerned, super concerned with the
mm,
current party and the current party leader in the presidency. So much concerned that they wanted to sell all of their investments and have it in cash so that they could be prepared
yeah.
to leave the country if they needed to, right? And that
Hmm.
it sounds crazy. Um, and I you know I thought it was a crazy comment, and the way I dealt with it, I shared the fact that, hey, my family had to leave Cuba, right? They were run off from their country. So like, yeah, your situation, it says as improbable as it is,
It's not
it's
impossible,
it's
right?
not
But
impossible.
it's improbable.
Um, it's totally improbable, and they didn't make that decision, and it was a good decision not to make it. It would have been a poor decision that was completely 100% driven in fear. Now that's a pretty extreme example, but I
Mhm.
think if you were to stop and think about some decisions you make about finances on a daily basis, a lot of them are fear driven, and maybe the decisions end up being good decisions, maybe they end up being bad decisions, right? I'm thinking like you go to the grocery store and you're like, "Ah, I'm gonna buy the chuck roast because I don't know if I can afford the ribeye tonight because I might not have enough." And again, might sound like a silly example, but maybe you do have enough. Maybe it's an unfounded fear.
Yeah.
Um, and I think
I have a friend right now that that worries constantly about money, constantly. And they have plenty of money. But there's just something about their own modeling of their future and how much they need that they live in sort of a perpetual state of anxiety about money.
Yeah. And Steph just taps into something you said earlier, that it's not a particular demographic. It's not poor people or rich people who have more anxiety or fear about money. I mean, it is a human condition
Yeah.
that plagues all of us
Do I have
across.
enough? Yeah.
Do I
Do I?
have do I have enough? And I think that's what it comes down to. So, um, Stephanie, you want to add anything about money and making poor decisions on fear before I kind of start talking about the antidote? It's a spooky Halloween word. The antidote to making
Listen, I just
fearful.
want to hear your antidote. I'm
You just
here
want to hear the
for it.
antidote? You're
Yeah.
just here for the antidote?
Yeah.
That's a hard word. It's a hard word. We were joking about it before we started. I mispronounced the word, and that's okay. I can own it.
Well,
I'm an
you were
English
you were
speaker that
using the
grew up
word.
in it.
You were saying anecdote. You were telling an anecdote. Now
About
you're telling now an anecdote about the word antidote.
I'm telling an anecdote. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Beautiful.
antidote, a solution. What is the definition of antidote? Like it's
Antidote.
almost like a potion. It sounds like the fix for a potion gone bad.
That's right. It's got to
Which is
be like if some spooky character casts a spell on you, you would need an antidote.
to Yes. What's that? Oh my gosh. Actually, I can handle this Halloween movie. It's the one with witches. My daughter loves it. It's kind of like a goofy one. Is it Bette
Hocus
Midler in it?
pocus.
Yes, Hocus Pocus.
Hocus
Yes.
pocus.
There's antidotes in that one. That's my speed right there. There's
Yeah. I
antidotes.
liked the Smurfs. That
It's
was
pretty
kind of
spooky.
that's about as spooky as I can. Or what about Scooby Doo?
Scooby Doo was that thriller. The thrillers aren't as bad for me as scary movies are,
They have
but
some spooky parts. Yeah.
they can get a little it can get a little bit it can get a little bit spooky with Scooby Doo. So what's the antidote to making bad, fear-driven financial decisions?
Is it convert all your wealth into Halloween candy?
That is not a good idea.
Okay.
All that sugar is not.
What if the Halloween candy looks like gold bars?
Now, if there's a possibility of having a ticket in one of those gold bars to get you the
Yeah.
estate of the local chocolatier and therefore become rich, maybe, but that sounds a little bit like gambling to me, and I don't think gambling is the solution to
Not
not
the
having enough.
antidote. Okay.
Not the antidote. It's not the antidote. So, here at Plan Wisely, we have 7 pillars of financial security. Quick fact here: the pillars of financial security originated based off some work that you and I did, Matt. What, 10, 12 years ago? Started with 4. Now we're up to 7.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the Constitution. Just can't add a.
Gross.
Well, it grows. No, no, but you just can't willy nilly add a new pillar. I mean, there's got to be
Okay.
like it's got to be substantial, right? But one of the additions to the pillars from when we originally did it, the first one is know what's important to you. Know what's important to you. And I don't think a lot of people have stopped long enough to determine what is important to them. Now,
Yeah.
here's why this is pillar number 1, and here's why I think it's an antidote to some of the fear and anxiety around money. I don't think you can totally snuff it out, because I do think that's just part of the human condition, right? We're going to be fearful and anxious and stressed unless we're just really, really, really good and constantly like checking in with ourselves, which we'll talk about some practical things that you can do to minimize that. But I think when you stop long enough to determine what's most important to you, then you can start making some conscious decisions to align what you do with your money with those things that are important for you. A lot of the regret that I see people have regarding money is on decisions that they made in the past that they probably wouldn't make them today because they realize, well, it really wasn't that important
Yes.
to me. Um, how does that land for you, Matt? Like if you're sitting here, let's say you're dealing with, if you looked at a lot of the people that you work with, that you've worked with over the past, the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty as it deals with money, do you feel that there was this really good sense of them knowing what really, really is important to me and what should I be doing with my money?
No, I don't think that people have fully thought that out. But let me just share a couple of personal examples about this one. This pillar is really important to me, and I'm happy that I'm grateful that you taught it to me, because essentially what I've learned from you is that if I know what's important to me in my life and how I live my life, my lifestyle, then I can align my financial habits with that. For instance, it's important to me that our family travel together. It's important that we do some fun things now. So we're going to be setting aside money for traveling. It's important to me that we have money to that we're able to retire one day, and it's important to me that we're able to leave some money to our grandkids. So those are all different savings accounts for me. There's a shorter term travel account. There's a kind of legacy leave money to grandkids account, but there's also a retirement account. And just like clarifying that in my mind helped me to align my financial practices according to those values.
Hmm.
And I really don't think that I had a sense of that until you and I started to talk more clearly about it. I grew up in a home or in a family where financial literacy was taught. So I knew how to write a check. I knew how to balance a checkbook, but really like aligning my financial habits with my values was something I learned in adulthood later in life. So I think that because my financial habits are more in line with my values, it brings me some comfort. And I think a lot of my clients that I hear from who are nervous financially have just not taken the time to really sketch out on paper what do they care about financially, and can they afford to do that. Let me give you another personal example. It was not that important to me that my kids go to the best schools. I thought my kids need a good education. They don't need the best education. They need a good education. My wife and I are educated. We can supplement their education at home if they go to good schools. So for instance, they're in college now, and I was never going to say go to the best school that you can get into even if you can't afford it. We were going to say go to the best school you can get into that we can afford,
Hmm.
because that aligned with our financial values, that we're going to spend money on education, but we're not going to break the bank on education.
Yeah. Hearing you share this over the past couple minutes, I realized something that I don't think I've ever realized before. And we're sitting here talking about financial fear and anxiety. We're talking about what's important to you. And I realized there's like almost like this like direct one for one mapping of spending money on the things that are most important to me
Mhm.
to alleviating a fear. So for example, travel is important to you.
Yes.
If you weren't saving for traveling, there'd be a lot of anxiety around this idea of the next trip that you're going to take. I'm going to have to go into debt. I'm going to have to put on my credit card. It's going to cost me a lot in interest.
Right.
That fear is no longer there because you put money aside.
And specifically, we have a savings account that we call travel savings.
Yeah.
And we have money that goes into the travel savings account. And so then when we take a trip, it's essentially paid for before we go on the trip out of our travel savings account. Our trips keep getting more expensive, I'll tell you that much. So now we got to save more.
But here's what's also interesting about it. You alleviate a potential fight with you and your spouse because you're talking about a trip. Well, hey, this is what we have. This is how much we
Yeah.
can afford. It's there. We don't have to have this conversation. We have to deliberate. We don't have to negotiate. Like this is what we have. If it's in the account, we can spend it. If we don't have it, we can't spend it.
Right. And we're aligned in that way so that yeah, we don't have to argue about it.
Hmm. Yeah. That's fascinating. I never thought about that. Almost that one for now. I don't, I'm running through scenarios through my mind to see if it always works that way. There's like one for one mapping of like, here's a financial fear. If I identify what matters most, does it kind of snuff out that fear or help clarify it, help bring it to awareness, right? And you talked
Well,
about that.
I have another one.
Yeah, go for it.
So I feel pretty good about my financial future right now, but it is based on the assumption that I continue to make the amount of money that I make or more,
Yeah.
right? So you also know that I'm a little bit of a thrill seeker. So one of my fears is that I get injured
Mm-hmm.
and can't make the same amount of money that I do.
Yeah.
And so at some point I came to you and I was like, maybe I need to look into not long-term care, but I need that also, but short-term disability insurance.
Yeah.
And so I've added that to my portfolio, some way to insure my income. And that's alleviated some fear for me. So that's to me, it's an expense. I have to spend money on disability insurance, but it alleviates a fear. That expense alleviates another fear for me, which would be that I'm damaged in some way and I can't earn the same amount of money that I do.
Yeah. Again, that's a one for one mapping of this is important to me. How do I alleviate? How do I fund that so I don't have to worry about either the
Yeah.
consequence of something happening around that or something along those lines? That's really interesting.
Yeah, we also, you know, that we also do winter sports. We ski in the winter and we ride dirt bikes in the summer. And we spend a lot of money on helmets because that's like my first line of short-term disability
Is
insurance
your
is a
helmet?
good helmet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have several helmets.
I remember if I can share this story. I remember you called me. I think you were on one of your trips,
Yeah.
and you and your oldest. I think it was your oldest. Y'all did downhill mountain biking. I think,
Right.
and apparently it was a blast. It sounds terrifying to me.
Yeah. It was terrifying and a blast. Yes.
Have all kinds of terrifying visions of things that could happen, broken bones. And I think he said, "Man, my kid wants to do it again, but it's really expensive."
Yeah.
And I think it fell outside of your budget. And I don't remember how the conversation went, but I'm like, I mean, isn't that important to you? And you're like, yeah, like
Yeah.
do it again. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, let's say it was about $300 a day for each of us.
Whew.
And so it was not, it wasn't terribly expensive, but it was not cheap. And we had budgeted 1 day of doing this, and my son had such a good time with it. He was like, "Can we please do that again?" And so, yeah, I didn't have more money saved specifically for another day of downhill mountain biking, but I had other money set aside for other things, and I could cut back on something. And at the end, I think talking with you, we just felt like we enjoyed that so much, and that was such a good father-son experience that I can take money from one savings account and spend it on downhill mountain biking again
Because it's
with
something you
helmets.
identified. Yeah, with helmets. Good. Expensive helmets. Because something you identified was important to you. Okay, so like there's fear. Um, an antidote to fear is identifying what's most important to you, but
Yeah.
to me, that's just not enough. That could be like a one-time thing. Like, okay, this is important to me. Why am I still afraid? Why am I so fearful? So let's kind of move into some really practical things that we can do to really ongoing. Because if this is a problem that's going to constantly persist, I feel like we have to have some behaviors or some habits built into our lifestyle that helps us deal and confront and remember what's important to us, confront the anxiety and remember what's most important to us. Steph, what are your I'm just curious. I know you're just kind of sitting back and listening here, but what are your thoughts? Shed some light on some of this for us.
I think between everything that's being said is that, you know, there is stress and fear, and if you can identify what's leading up to that, you should be able to come up with some solutions to help alleviate or at least minimize so you
Yeah.
don't have like fear paralysis.
Yeah, so this actually ties back to the thing that I'm glad you said that because it reminded me of one of the things that Matt said earlier that I want to come back to. This idea of are we doing okay with that? So you're identifying. You're talking about we have to identify what that fear is. Stating what's most important to you doesn't necessarily name that fear. It doesn't necessarily identify that fear. You talk about this kind of awareness of recognizing what that fear is. Matt, you talked about that, and you kind of led at some point. I don't know if it was in that same thread, but you talked about this idea of are we doing okay with that? Is that like that sounds like an ongoing kind of check-in, so to speak, right? Once you've identified your fear, this ongoing like how are we doing okay managing that?
Yeah, are you asking me, are we doing okay managing a fear, or are we doing okay managing our money?
The fear surrounding money,
Yeah, I
whatever the fear is. If the
mm,
fear is fear of mismanaging money, right? And I've identified that fear, so the check-in of like, hey, am I doing okay with that now? Am I doing better?
yeah. For most of us, if we can name our fear, if we can label it, if we can identify it, if we can connect it to something real, then we can it'll start to diffuse. It'll start to soften. So fears are often maintained in us because we're not acknowledging them. So if we can acknowledge that fear, label it, pay attention to it, it it has a way of just like that doesn't work all the time for everything, but just starting there. So, for instance, um, I'm afraid that we're not saving enough for retirement. Okay, okay. But what are you afraid of in retirement? What are you afraid later in life is going to happen? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to outlive my money. Okay, what do you think that fear comes from? Oh, well, both my grandparents lived into their 90s, or I saw my grandparents
Mm-hmm.
um, have to go into a care facility and they didn't have enough money and it wasn't a very good care facility, So maybe they have specific life experience that is fueling the fear. And if they can identify where that's coming from,
So I
then
would say that so that's kind of part one. I've identified where it's coming from.
yeah,
But just because I identify where it's coming from doesn't necessarily mean like I'm alleviating that fear. So
right.
a step there would be like, if I'm afraid I'm not going to have enough for retirement, okay, what's the reality of your situation? How much do you need for retirement?
Yeah.
Do you have enough for retirement? Are you saving for retirement? Identify the real practical stuff. Like, no, actually, I'm not saving enough for retirement. So, okay, set a goal
Right.
for retirement savings. Sit down with a financial planner. Determine how much you should be saving, and almost create these small. So like this idea of this is how I like to think about it. Knowing what's important to you it's not a goal, but it's a direction. Like this is my direction. This is important to me. It's like the horizon. I'm going to head towards the horizon,
Mhm.
and along the way, I have to identify some checkpoints, some objectives
Yeah.
as I head towards the horizon. So like retirement's important to me. Man, retirement's so far away. That's like a direction that I'm going. Am I going in that right direction? Am I setting the objectives to get there? And when you have those check-ins to say, okay, maybe I need to save this much money. And when you can see yourself saving that much and you check in, okay, I am headed towards that direction. I have this fear about of living too long because I had this life experience, but this is the antidote. I've identified that it's important to me to save for retirement.
Mm.
And here's how I am making sure that I can keep that fear at bay so it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. I'm
I
saving.
have a strategy now. I can put in place a strategy. I can develop some plans around addressing that fear.
Consistent small wins, right? It's
Yes.
the same thing with debt. Debt's scary to me, right? I've got student loan debt and I need to get rid of it. Okay, well, let's create a really specific strategy to get rid of it and check in regularly and say, man, I had 50,000 at the beginning of the year and now I only have 43,000. But yeah, you have 43,000. That's a big number, but you have 7,000 less than you did when you
Yeah.
started, right?
And in 8 more years, I'll have it paid off. I can see a roadmap to get there.
Yeah, yeah. Ignoring it, we talked about earlier. Ignoring the fear doesn't make it go away. It only worsens the problem. If you have debt and you don't address it, well, what happens to the debt? It accrues more and more and more interest and more fees, and it gets more and more expensive, and your fear
Yes.
becomes more and more real. as opposed to creating some really specific actionable items to it. So I guess kind of as we kind of wrap up here, some really, really practical takeaways for people. If you have fear, anxiety, or stress around money, something that we do here with our clients is we do have this conversation a lot about what's most important to you because we think it's the foundation to good financial planning. I can't give you advice. Steph can't help execute on any financial plan that we put in place if we haven't determined what's really important to you. It's really hard. I mean, money's a pretty personal, intimate thing that touches every part of your life. So sitting down and just write out what's really important to me. What are the things that are most important to me? And we kind of have a question that we work through. We work with people through, and we call a statement of financial purpose, which kind of wraps up all those things that are most important to them. So just do this check-in. It typically revolves around values. So think about values, the value type statements. It's important to me that, um, looking back on your life, when I'm 80 years old, when I look back, these are the things that I would have hoped to accomplish. Sounds a little bit morbid since it's Halloween time. We can say this. When I was coming up in the insurance space, they had us, this is terrible. They had us write our eulogies. Like,
Yeah.
what would you want people to say about you? Now, it sounds morbid, but when you think about it from a legacy standpoint, um, that's going to dictate how you live your life today. Those are really good things, really good ways to help you identify the things that are most important to you, and then you build out action items that are going to project you towards those things that you said are most important. And then once you have those action items, you check in regularly. How am I doing towards this? How am I doing towards retirement? How am I doing towards my debt? How am I doing towards saving for travel? And for most people, and one of the roles that we play often with our clients is just fierce accountability. Hey, you said that this was important to you and you're doing this, and that's not consistent with what's important to you. Is that still important to you? Well, it's still important to me. Then why would you do this? Maybe we should do this instead. I think fierce accountability is really important to me. One of the things you taught me early on, Matt, when we first started collaborating, we were talking about counseling, and you said the counseling process is often as important as the counsel itself. So what you tell a client, the advice you give a client is often not as important as the conversation that you have with the client to help them process through it. And I've learned that the financial planning process often is as important as the financial plan itself. Having the conversation about fears and anxiety is really important. That's the planning process. That right there is often as important as me saying, "Hey, pay off your debt," because throughout the process, you're going to realize what's important to you, and you're going to be motivated oftentimes to attack those things that are creating fear and anxiety in your life. So, if you're listening to this and that sounds like you, and you have fear and anxiety, around money. That's what we do here at Plan Wisely Wealth Advisors. We help you reduce the fear and anxiety around money to make sure that you're doing the things that are most important to you with your money, so that you look back, 20, 30 years from now, you don't look back in with regret. So don't let money be spooky. Don't let money haunt you.
Yeah.
We have the antidote to fear and anxiety around money. Don't scream because you're afraid.
Don't
of
be a
money.
scaredy cat.
Don't be a scaredy
Don't
cat.
be scary.
Don't be scary. There you go. Look at you. Yeah. And do either of you have any closing thoughts?
I think, for so much of what you said there makes sense for me personally but as a couples therapist, it's interesting how frequently the couple are just not quite on the same page, and that they need to go through the process of just having these conversations together, and just having the conversations together, especially if it's season after season, kind of routinely, is as important as the outcome of the plan.
Yeah.
Just being able to talk about it. Scary, but you can do it.
Scary. Speaking of scary, this is Steph's first podcast, y'all. She was a little scary to come on.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
If y'all want to hear more from Steph, just shoot me an email.
Good job, Steph.
We'll get her out. We'll get her out. We'll get out here more often. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful, share it with someone else. Go out there and plan wisely so that you can live confidently.